In this world, there's one man who refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they will love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos. And this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, wonderful Sports Wednesday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Wednesday morning, the world of sports absolutely on fire. And we are going to hit on all the big stories, including the National League MVP race for the ages, heating up last night. PCA and Shohei Ohtani. PCA did something last night we haven't seen in Major League Baseball in quite some time. And what did Shohei Ohtani do? Oh, just hit another home run, throw a bullpen session. I have a pretty strong opinion on who's going to win NL MVP. I will share that with you coming up next hour on the show. I will also tell all of you why Dallas Cowboys cornerback Kalen Carson, you've probably never heard of him. You will after today. Why I believe that he may be the single dumbest person in all of sports. I'm going to explain. And I will also detail what is perhaps, out of the thousands of sports bets that I have placed in the, what are we at now, 20-plus years, almost 22 years I've been betting on sports, one of the worst sports bets I have ever placed. I would say I'm embarrassed by it, but honestly, I'm not. There have been a lot of bad ones over the years, but I placed one that is up there among the worst that I've ever placed. I'll tell you about it at the end of the show. And at the end of the show, in the Power Hour, the final hour, we'll give you all our bets for tonight in Major League Baseball. A small winner yesterday for us, 2-2 on the diamond. At least 2 baseball bets, maybe more, but at least 2 baseball bets coming your way today on a Wednesday. The phone number, 310-840-4910. We are on YouTube, youtube.com/@thekostos, TheKostos, and you can follow me, your boy, Nick Kostos, on all social media platforms at the Kostos, TheKostos. But we officially begin the wonderful Sports Wednesday edition of You Better You Bet. Are you ready for this? Are you all sitting down? And if you're standing and you want to keep standing, go for it. I don't really care. We begin with week number 1 in the National Football League. Oh, yeah. We're less than a month away. Way less than a month away. Game numero uno. Super Bowl 60 rematch. Patriots and Seahawks in the Pacific Northwest coming your way Wednesday night, September 9th. As the National Football League continues to spread its tentacles everywhere. We're going to have games at some point, 365 days a year on every continent. Roger Goodell saying that there's, quote, no doubt that we're going to have a team abroad at some point, maybe in the near future. I don't even know what to say about this. I'm the biggest NFL fan on the planet. Like I say, you can like the NFL as much as me. You can't like it more than me. It's not possible. It's a lifelong love affair with me and the National Football League. At some point, things are going to come to a head here. And I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But you know what? That's a story for another time. Wednesday, September 9th, Seahawks and the Patriots. And full disclosure, I'm doing today's show, then I'm out the rest of the week, and I'm out next week. That is the last hurrah before Nick Kostos returns and sits in this chair for basically 6 months straight. And by the way, just to say this, I believe we are going to have, and when I say we, I mean me, and like I guess our crew also, a couple really cool things to tell you about for this football season over the course of the next 3 weeks or so. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But given that this is my last show for about a week and a half here before I'm basically with you for 6 months straight, I want to take the opportunity right now because I am spending a ton of time thinking about it. I spent all last night thinking about it. After our interviews yesterday with Drew Dinsick, the whale capper from NBC, our friend Connor Allen from 4 for 4, talking week 1 and just betting the NFL this season in general, I spent all night last night thinking about every single game. I'm on the bet. My wife's getting pissed at me. Can you please put the phone down? Why are you've been on the BetMGM app for an hour? Why? Because I'm perusing lines. I'm looking at sides. I'm looking at totals. Like I'm Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. I'm staring at it until it starts to make sense. Like I used to do back in the day, Stat Tracker, shout out to Yahoo Fantasy Baseball, just staring at box scores until something leaps out at me. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about week 1. And not all my opinions, betting-wise, for week 1 are fully crystallized. Not all of them, and I will detail those for you as we move along over the course of the program today. But I have enough strong opinions here that barring any type of injury, and injuries can and will happen, unfortunately, barring any kind of crazy story that kind of changes the fundamental dynamic of a game, something happens with the coach, something happens off-field with a player, I kind of have an idea of what I want to do week 1 this season, and for most teams in totality over the balance of the year. And I think the final piece kind of came into play yesterday when just in the NFC South, I think I have to back Tampa, and I didn't necessarily want to back the Buccaneers. I was actually looking for reasons to back any other team. Panthers have all the injuries. Falcons have no pass rush. New Orleans loses Jordan Tyson. I think it might just be Tampa by default. So I think the pieces of the puzzle are all falling into place here in the NFL, which means I am ready to give all of you my first glance at the full board week 1 in the NFL. So I am planning on giving an opinion on every game over the course of the show today. Curious if you agree or not with me. You can type it in the YouTube chat. You can tweet me at the Kostos, TheKostos, and you can tweet us at You Better You Bet. And let's start with the Super Bowl 60 rematch Wednesday night, September the 9th, with the Seahawks and the Patriots. Seattle, as it stands right now, a 3.5-point favorite over New England. The total of the game, 44.5. And even if you are not a sports bettor, I think these conversations are going to be valuable for you. And even if you're not a sports bettor, I think that we can use point spreads to kind of tell you like what the betting market feels is the difference between these teams. This market, Seattle versus New England, Seattle a 3.5-point favorite, tells me and should tell you, or I'm telling you at least, this is what the betting market says, that there is not that big of a difference between these teams. And you might be shocked to hear that. Now, the betting market in the Super Bowl told you that there was a pretty big difference between these teams. Neutral site game. Seattle closed a 4.5-point favorite in that game. So that's the betting market telling you, yeah, like Seattle is a good amount better than New England. And if you recall, I bet Seattle in that game. I loved Seattle in that game in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. This point spread tells you, given that Seattle has one of the best home field advantages in the NFL, you don't have to be a sports bettor to understand that, right? The great home field that Seattle has. So with home field advantage, given that it's a primetime game, season opener, and the added emphasis of this being like banner night for Seattle, and New England has to watch Seattle basically like get all the praise from winning the Super Bowl, that's a huge amount of home field advantage that gets baked in here. So again, betting markets telling you Seattle's only a little bit better than New England this year. Now, you can disagree with that. You can think Seattle's a lot better than the Patriots. We can have that conversation. You're welcome to your opinion. I kind of don't see it that way. I think the betting market has this right. And that, to me, because I think that Seattle fans might take that as an insult to their team, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. And I view it less as an insult to Seattle and a compliment to the New England Patriots. I know that we do this all the time, and like, when I say we do this, it implies that it doesn't actually happen. Like, it does happen a lot. We just saw it happen with Kansas City, right? Super Bowl hangover. Team that loses the Super Bowl can struggle the next year. And there are certainly reasons to believe and expect that New England might regress a little bit this year, right? Easiest schedule this century in the NFL last year. Red carpet rolled out for them in the postseason. Dud by Justin Herbert wildcard weekend. Poopy in his pants by C.J. Stroud divisional weekend. Here's Jarrett Stidham in lieu of Bo Nix in the AFC Championship game. You couldn't have had an easier road to the Super Bowl. And that's not, me bleep talking New England. I'm stating a fact. Nothing I said just now is incorrect. So there will be people that will say the schedule is way tougher this year for New England. It is. There's no, that is objective, not subjective. It is a fact. The schedule is tougher this year for the Patriots. But the Patriots are also way better. Way better. And Drake May is a megastar. A super duper duper superstar, as my daughter would say, who's 2 years old looking up at the night sky. Yeah. Drake May is an absolute. He's what Murr from Impractical Jokers would call a bouse. Almost won NFL MVP last year. Did Drake May in year 2. Now, you can point to Super Bowl hangovers, right? And they've certainly happened many times over the years. How about Joe Burrow and the Bengals coming off year 2 for Joe Burrow? Made the Super Bowl, barely lost to the LA Rams, went back to the AFC Championship game the next year, lost in overtime to the Chiefs. I don't see the Patriots with the Super Bowl hangover. And it looks like the Diana Rossini situation is kind of behind Mike Vrabel at this point. And I know, and I appreciate and respect what Mike Tomlin said in the Hall of Fame game on NBC, which is if the Patriots win, the story's going to go away. And if they're losing, Mike Vrabel's going to get asked about it. And I respect Mike Tomlin, and I do think he's right about that. But my opinion is that Mike Vrabel's an awesome coach. And Josh McDaniels might be the worst head coach in the history of the NFL, but stud offensive coordinator. Zach Kerr, first full season calling the defense for New England. Here's A.J. Brown. Here's Romeo Doubs. I believe the offensive line should be better. Elijah Vera Tucker stays healthy. That's a big deal on the interior of this line for New England. Will Campbell healthier than he was to end last season. And the Seahawks lost Clint Kubiak to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, perhaps Brian Fleury, Theo's dad. That's not true. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. Brian Fleury, the new offensive coordinator of Seattle, who comes over from Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, perhaps he's able to make it like Clint Kubiak never left. And the Seahawks offense doesn't miss a beat. And this running game without Zach Charbonnet early in the season and Kenneth Walker can keep it rolling with rookie Jadarian Price and George Halani and Emmanuel Wilson. And Jackson Smith-Njigba picks off where he left off last year as the offensive player of the year. Maybe that all happens. But I think there's enough questions there to say, at a point spread like this, with a quarterback like I've got in Drake May on the other side, I'll take the points with the New England Patriots. I don't know if I'll be intrepid enough, gutsy enough, ballsy enough to take the Patriots to win outright in Seattle on banner night. But to lose by 3 or less feels to me like Seattle wins this one at the gun. Give me the Patriots plus 3.5. Now, just to say this, I'll say this maybe a couple times over the course of the show. I reserve the right to change my mind on these opinions if and when there are injuries, new information presents itself. But if we get to week 1 and things remain static, mostly the same, I think I'm going to roll with these opinions. New England plus the 3.5 week 1 in Seattle. Let's move now out of the country. This is Roger Goodell's dream, right? I hate this, and I said it when it was announced. You want to have a game in Melbourne, Australia? Fine. Yeah, this is clearly the NFL's MO. I can yell at a cloud. It's not going to change anything. So we have a Melbourne, Australia game, Thursday, September 10th. You can do this. I just despise the fact that it's a gigantic division game with two potential Super Bowl teams, with the Niners and the Rams. Like, these games should be played in San Francisco and Los Angeles. So you want to have a game in Melbourne? Good day, mate. I understand. Put a couple shrimp on the Barbie, watch some American football. I get it. Shout out to Dumb and Dumber. But I hate that it's the Rams and the 49ers in the game. But alas, it is. So now we stop bitching and we start handicapping. The Rams, 3.5-point favorites, total of the game, 48.5. And this point spread went up when Myles Garrett got traded to the Rams, and presumably there will be a bump if and when, and I think it's likely to be when, Aaron Donald decides to unretire and joins the Los Angeles Rams defense. And there's so much buzz, deservedly so, around the LA Rams. I'm not going to do like the debate show trope where it's like, well, let me tell you why actually getting Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald is bad for the LA Rams. Like, it's not bad. And let's leave Donald alone for a second. Getting Myles Garrett is spectacular. He's the best defensive player in the league. Set the sack record. Defensive player of the year. And by virtue of having Myles Garrett, and I said this when they made the trade for him, you know, so much praise is heaped on Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, the reigning MVP, and Puka Nacua and this Rams offense, and you get it, right? We're in a fantasy football world, myself included. So Puka excites you, and Devontae excites you, and Kyron Williams excites you. And if you're a sicko like me, Terrence Ferguson excites you, right? But if you asked me, hey, Nick, which Rams unit do you feel better about this year? Offense or defense? It's the defense, and it's not close. You can poke some holes in the Rams' offense. I don't think they've got any speed. I don't like the two offensive tackles, Alaric Jackson and Warren McClendon. You can't really poke many holes in this Rams defense. The defensive line is absolutely loaded with Myles Garrett and Fisk and Young and Turner. It's insane, and wait until Aaron Donald joins the mix if that happens. Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson coming over at corner from the Kansas City Chiefs, wanted to trade, wanted to signing. Like, this is good stuff for Chris Shula and the LA Rams defense. And I think in most games, against most coaches and most play callers and most schemers, the Rams are going to be able, they are going to know, based on the way you are protecting, exactly what you're doing on offense before the play is called. Think about that for a second. Because I think when we try and go through in our heads like schematic advantages in the NFL, we go to like Ben Johnson with the Bears and how he's going to destroy your defense and set you up to do something. I think the Rams' main schematic advantage this year is going to be defensively. They're going to know what you've got planned for that play based on how you're looking to block Myles Garrett and the other players on. Wait till Aaron Donald joins. So they're going to have the advantage over almost every team in the league. Maybe, except this one. With this coach. With Kyle Shanahan. And, you know, the Niners are always the walking wounded. Mike Evans is in and out of practice. Christian McCaffrey's in and out of practice to the point that Kyle Shanahan has to address it yesterday, saying if this were, you know, a regular practice, he'd be out there. Doesn't think it has anything to do with his contract. I don't believe him, but just saying. Ricky Pearsall's out for the year. Even Kyle Shanahan himself is banged up after his car accident a little over a month ago. And because of that, you should all be ashamed. Because you're sleeping on this team and this coach. Kyle Shanahan, if you had to trust any coach, I guess you could maybe say Ben Johnson. Maybe you want to throw Andy Reid out there. I kind of think Andy's lost his fastball a little bit. So maybe you want to say Ben Johnson. Kyle Shanahan, for me, is the easy answer. Which coach do you trust to throw the Sean McVay defense, the Chris Shula defense with Myles Garrett and company off balance? It would be Shanahan. And yeah, like the Niners have some injury woes at the moment. It's August 19th. Now look, we get there to Melbourne, Australia, week 1, and the Niners are the walking wounded, I might feel a little differently. But as it stands right now, I don't even need the points. I'll take them, but I don't need them. I think the San Francisco 49ers walk into Melbourne as the underdog and walk out 1-0, beating the LA Rams in both teams' season opener. We are just getting started. Wonderful Sports Wednesday edition. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos and you. Presented by BetMGM. On the other side, we will turn our attention to Sunday's slate of games, and we will start. Robert Saleh out for revenge. Will he get it? Titans and the Jets, Bears and the Panthers, and more next here on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. All right, Sunday, September 13th, slate of games. The Tennessee Titans and the New York Jets from the Music City. I'm a little surprised by the betting market in this game, with Tennessee almost a full 3-point favorite. As it stands right now at our show sponsor, BetMGM, Tennessee laying 2.5. The total of the game is 39.5. So not a lot of scoring expected between Cam Ward and the Titans, Geno Smith, and the New York Jets. And if you spend any amount of time, absorbing my content, listening to this show, watching the show, stuff I put on social, you know what I want to do with this game. It's being branded as like the Robert Saleh revenge game because the Jets fired him a couple years ago. By the way, they were correct to fire him. He's a terrible head coach. Seems to be a nice guy and is a objectively awesome defensive coordinator in the NFL. But he's a bad coach. And I don't think Cam Ward's got the goods. He was brutal last week in week 1 of the preseason. And I get it. It's just week 1 of the preseason. I understand that. But coming off of last year, which was, by any account, a pretty bad rookie season for Cam Ward, where I think we expected, even if the wins and losses weren't there necessarily, you expected some more from Cam Ward. You wanted him to at least be competent in that first preseason game. He didn't have to go, 4 for 4 with 4 touchdowns. That's not what it had to be. But you wanted like a certain level of competence from Cam Ward. I don't think you got it. And I'm worried about what the Tennessee Titans are going to be this year. And on the flip side, I think there's optimism for the Jets this year. And I wouldn't be shocked. You call me crazy, you will. I get it. I understand. And I can be wrong. I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Glenn won Coach of the Year. After what happened last year, as bad as the Jets were, if the Jets win enough games this season that Aaron Glenn wins Coach of the Year, or at the very least is one of the finalists for Coach of the Year. And I'll make a guarantee right now for everybody. Last year, if you took the number of interceptions the Jets had as a team and multiplied it by 1 million, it would be 0. Seems impossible. Full season, 0 interceptions. Here's my guarantee for everybody. The Jets will pick off Cam Ward at least once in week 1. I don't need the points. Jets are going to beat the Titans in week 1. Gang Green starts 1-0. The Tennessee Titans in their sweet new Houston Oilers-inspired uniforms will start 0-1. You better you bet on this Wednesday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports, rolling through week 1 in the NFL. A little less than a month away. Bears and the Panthers in Carolina. Chicago, 2.5-point road favorite in the game. 47.5 is the total. We talked about this game yesterday with Drew Dinsick and Connor Allen. Both agree with me here, which doesn't mean that we have to be right. I do enjoy it, though, when smart people I respect are thinking the same way I am. Where Ben Johnson is aware, he says it, that the Bears are the regression candidate this season. He's paying attention to what people are saying. The Bears, all the one-score games last year that they won, all the late comebacks, all the turnovers they forced, unlikely to happen again. And I acknowledge all of that. And, I haven't finalized what I want to do with the NFC North. I want to have the Bears back in the playoffs. It might be tough in that division and in the NFC. But in this game, early in the season, hard for me to not like Chicago. Panthers, issues along the offensive line. We'll see if Chuba Hubbard's ready to go. The assumption is that Jonathan Brooks is just going to dominate as the lead back for this team. We haven't seen him carry the rock in years outside of the first preseason game where he didn't do much except stay healthy, and there's something to be said for that. I'm just saying, going to need to see a little more there. And there is absolutely a world that exists, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but think about it. Would it really be that surprising if we got to the end of the year and the Chicago Bears had the number 1 offense in the NFL? Would it be that big of a surprise if Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson had the league's top-ranked offense. Wouldn't surprise me. And I trust Ben Johnson. And I trust Caleb Williams. And I think Chicago lays it on Carolina in week 1. I think a lot of people will talk themselves into the Panthers. Bears a regression candidate. Okay, fine. The public's going to back the Bears, and sometimes the public wins. I like the Bears laying the 2.5 in Carolina. Lions and the Saints in Detroit. Detroit is a touchdown favorite. The total of this game is 49.5. I was all ready to bet the Saints on the money line in this game. Give me the Saints to win the game. But I needed Chris Olave and Jordan Tyson to play for the Saints. And now we know Jordan Tyson could miss the first 2 months of the season, not weeks, months of the season. So it's harder for me to get there. And this is a game that kind of puzzles me a little bit because maybe Kellen Moore is just that good of a coach and Tyler Shuck is ready to make the second-year leap, and maybe they won't even need Jordan Tyson. They want him, obviously. There'll be a better offense with him, but maybe they'll be humming, in a dome against what I think is going to be a bad Lions defense. Maybe they'll get it going without Jordan Tyson. Certainly possible. And maybe Brandon Staley's defense is going to be good enough here to hold what should be an explosive Lions offense down. Look, you're going to ask me what my strong opinion is on this game. I can't tell you it's betting the Lions. I can't tell you it's betting the Saints. I like the over in the game. And this will be a square bet that a lot of people will like. Doesn't mean it will lose. I just have so much faith and confidence in this Lions offense, even if I don't like the defense. And I think the defense will ultimately be what holds them down. I don't think Drew Petzing or anyone can really screw up this offense for the Lions this year. Assuming that the offensive line play is at least passable, which I think it will be, Jared Goff's an excellent trigger man. Amon-Ra, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, such a studs everywhere. And Kellen Moore is an awesome offensive coach. 49.5 feels a little light to me. If I had to bet the game, that's where I would go, would be over 49.5. We'll hit one more game this hour, get to the rest starting next hour. Danny Parkins will join us on the other side from Fox Sports 1. And that is the Steelers and the Falcons in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite. Total of the game is 42.5. I hate this, what I'm about to say. I despise it. I was really excited all offseason to bet the Falcons in this game as a dog in Pittsburgh. Now they have no pass rush. No Jalen Walker, no James Pierce. Here's a Darius Smith. Good luck, via con Dios. And this is game 1 in Pittsburgh with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. And even if I don't like them as a pair this season, to like win a Super Bowl or advance deep into the postseason, Atlanta could be dead team walking here. And I liked the Falcons this offseason, but it was predicated on this pass rush potentially being there. I don't see it happening. If I had to bet the game, I'd lay the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it gives me no pleasure to say that. We'll get to the rest of the games in Week 1 in the NFL as the show rolls on next hour, but on the other side, we will wrap up hour number 1, a conversation with our friend Danny Parkins. First things first on Fox Sports 1 here on a Wednesday.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, Wednesday, BetMGM players will receive a WNBA odds boost token. To use that token, add a WNBA wager to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Look, we all like winnings. You know what's better than just winnings? Extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today and please gamble responsibly. Joining us right now here on this Wednesday is our good friend Danny Park. And I gotta tell you, the hair looks great this morning. First things first, Fox Sports 1. Check it out today because Danny, hosting the show this week, you get 3 hours of Danny Parkins on national TV on Fox Sports 1. Great to have you on the show, my friend. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you, Nick. And yes, the Nick Wilds and Brew are out, and they've left the show in the somewhat capable hands of me.
Yeah, and I think it's been awesome. I've loved the social clips. I love what you had to say about the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. And now what? Did I make you self-conscious about your hair?
Yeah, I saw a piece of hair that was out of place, and I'm fine. You knocked it off though. You knocked the whole thing off. So
buzz cut season. Yeah,
buzz cut season. That's
absolutely
grind time for you.
Well, what I said is I have like one more like mini vacation, and then I basically sit in this chair for 6.5 months. So yeah, we try and get the vacation in where we can. I think you'll be off after today for a couple days, which is awesome. So it's that time of year. We're trying to get there to the start of the season, and we were just talking off air, and I was very happy to hear. I knew you would have opinions on Week 1 in the NFL because not a ton of news right now. So I'm talking games because I'm really excited for Week 1, and all of my opinions are starting to really crystallize both for Week 1, Danny, and for the season. So I'd love to get your opinions on a couple of the big games in Week 1. We'll get to the Bears and the Panthers, but Patriots-Seahawks, Wednesday, September 9th. Seattle, a 3.5-point favorite. And what I was explaining to the audience is that's the betting market telling you there's not really a big difference between these two teams. With the home field advantage Seattle has, primetime game, banner night, only a 3.5-point favorite. That's a lot of respect for New England. And we can have a conversation if you or the audience agree or disagree with that. But that's what the market's saying. Curious your opinion on the season opener.
So New England is better than they were last year, and Seattle is worse, right? I think we all agree on that. Seattle lost Kobe Bryant, Seattle lost Kenneth Walker, Seattle lost Clint Kubiak. Patriots add Romeo Doubs and A.J. Brown. Before we talk draft picks or anything, that's the brass tacks. The last time we saw these two teams play, it was non-competitive, and Seattle is at home. I do think that Seattle is still better than New England, even though I think New England is the better team, worse record. They are the obvious candidate for that. Everybody agrees with that take. There's not going to win 14 games again. Doesn't mean they can't win Week 1, but they're not winning 14 games again. The schedule's tougher. They're not going to surprise everybody. They won't have some of the luck they had in one-score games and injuries and all of that stuff. So I still have questions about the left side of the Patriots' offensive line. I think McDonald's one of the best defensive coaches, if not the best defensive coach in football. So I think at home with the noise on banner night, he exploits it. And even if the gap closed a little bit, I don't think it closed enough. I like Seattle in that spot.
Follow-up question here just on the Patriots where, Super Bowl hangover I think happens more often than not. My thought would be Drake May, like Joe Burrow after the Bengals lost the Super Bowl in year 2, went back to the AFC Championship game, lost to the Chiefs in overtime. Kind of think Drake May is too good for that to happen to the Patriots. I think New England's back in the playoffs this year. I might take them to win the AFC East. What about 30 seconds just on New England this year? I agree with you. They're not going 14-3 again, but I do think they'll be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, I look at them and see basically no way that they'd be bad. Is kind of I think they've got a very, very high floor because I agree with you. I think Drake May is awesome. I don't hate a Drake May MVP ticket this year just because the numbers were so good last year, in the analytic community. But now he actually adds guys who can get a bunch of passing touchdowns for him in Brown and Dobbs. So I think he's really good. I think they will be really good. Obviously, we got serious questions about Buffalo's defense, so I love that that's a coin flip in the AFC East. I'm not ready to give my pick for the division yet, but yes, I would imagine 7 teams make the playoffs. I would imagine New England's one of the 7.
Let's talk Bills defense just for a second here, and then I want to go to the Melbourne game. I'm starting to get a little excited about what this Bills defense could be this year with Jim Leonard as the defensive coordinator. Just in the sense that it's going to be very different from what it's been in the past. Now, you can make the case different is bad, right? Coming from Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbage calling the defense for years. I think I'm going to have a more positive outlook on what this could be paired with the offense for Buffalo. What about the Buffalo Bills? And again, we can save the AFC East, who you like to win the division, for later in the summer before the season starts. But what about Buffalo's defense this year and just overarching thoughts on the Bills?
So I think that Buffalo could have the best offense in football, and that might help the defense because teams have to get one-dimensional, teams get predictable, they get to be in pure passing downs, all those sorts of things. So I don't think they're going to be awful, but I think that's going to mostly be because of their defense. The problem with the Bills' defense has been when they've played good teams in the playoffs, they've gotten gashed. Right? In the last, in the 5 playoff losses of Josh Allen's career, they've allowed 29 or more in 3 of the 5. Right? Now, one of those games was really because of Josh Allen turnovers, or at least in part because of Josh Allen turnovers. But McDermott's defense has kind of feasted on bad teams in the regular season, artificially inflated some numbers, and then gotten skewered in big playoff moments, a few times obviously against Mahomes. I don't think he was a bad defensive coach. I like Leonard also, but I would say I think more likely to be bottom 10 than top 10.
Oh, okay.
They'll probably come out in the middle 10, that's most, or middle 12, that's most likely outcome. But I would be pretty shocked if the Bills at the end of the year, we were they have a good defense.
I think that's strong stuff there. And if that's true, maybe the Patriots are just going to win this division. The AFC.
Yeah, I just what do they hang their hat on? What do they hang their hat on defensively other than new scheme?
I will tell you, I think I'm going to give you a name. This is going to sound crazy, but I'm really in the weeds and in the minutia. Elam's Orr, the young linebacker, just talking to people that I respect, think that this could be a huge player for the Bills this year on defense. In the middle of the defense, what's been an undersized middle of the defense, to maybe really help out what Buffalo has been doing. As crazy as that might sound for a mid-round linebacker. I was going to
say, a fourth-round rookie at linebacker is not moving me off my position, despite anyone you talk to that you respect. That's fine.
I totally understand. I do like Bradley Chubb. I love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in this defense. I think we'll have more physicality in the Bills' defense this year, and I do think they desperately need some size at the linebacker position. Danny Parkins on the show. First things first, Fox Sports 1. Check him out, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern today on Fox Sports 1. Rams and the Niners in Melbourne. LA, a 3.5-point favorite on the neutral site, 48.5 the total. My sense is, and I'm guessing you'll agree, if and when Aaron Donald comes back, this number will tick up at least a little bit. Thoughts on the Rams and the Niners?
So I think the Niners are undervalued in the market, but they already have these injury issues again. To me, I assume Christian McCaffrey is going to be fine.
Agreed.
And is going to be great for this game. I assume that, and the number reflects it. But he was the only player in the NFL with over 400 touches last year, and that normally doesn't bode well for players the next year, even when they're 350 touches or more. It normally doesn't go as well for them the following year, and so he's out right now with what they're just describing kind of opaquely as tightness. I think he matters more to them than any other player on their roster. That's not some sort of revolutionary thought. But if he is 100%, them in the points in the weird spot of Australia, I could talk myself into with just a little bit overblown on the Rams. And I agree, bet it a minute before kickoff because everybody in the world is going to be oh my God, the Rams are playing and they have Aaron Donald. And that number is going to go up maybe even to 4.5. But for now, I would just be I'd be watching, and I'm glad I don't have a fantasy draft yet. I'm nervous about Christian McCaffrey at this moment in time.
I feel like even though Kyle Shanahan said yesterday that it's not related to his contract, kind of Jahmyr Gibbs just got beat, John. Maybe a smidge, related.
It could be
contractitis.
It could be a smidge related to the fact that Kenneth Walker is due to make as much money as Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, that might have a smidge to do it.
And you know what? I'm a kind of anti-Christian McCaffrey because he named his daughter Colette, which is my daughter's name, and he did it after me. So him and Olivia Culpo knew that, and they stole it from me. Bunch of jerks.
Yeah, no, you're a big influencer. No problem.
I mean, there's no question. When you think about influencers, Nick Kostos 1, Olivia Culpo 2 is generally how it goes. I love your team in week 1, buddy. Bears at the Carolina Panthers.
I love them so much in week 1 that I'm starting to get scared about how much I love them in week 1. Like, they need to win that game. Period. Borderline must win week 1.
Now, do you want it to be, does it matter if they win 24-23 on a last-second field goal? Or, do you need this to be, a no-doubter?
I mean, listen, if they survive in advance, it's the NFL. So I will take 24-23 on a last-second field goal and, be able to sleep that night. They lose 24-23 on a last-second field goal, I'm going to have bloodshot eyes on first things first the next day. So there's a ton riding on that game. Carolina obviously looks pretty good down the stretch of the season. And the last time we saw them, they played the Rams very tough. And so I do think it is at least within the realm of possibilities that Carolina is better than we expect. But the Bears offense should be able to pretty much name their number against the Panthers defense. So I will be very surprised if that's not a 30-point output for the Bears.
I have a couple more I'd like to run by you here, and you just tell me which of these you have a strong opinion on. Okay. Vikings-Packers, Minnesota, a 1-point favorite. Basically just pick the winner of the game. Total is 45. Sunday Night Football, Dallas laying 2.5 at the Giants. My sense is that will close 3. And then Monday night, Kansas City. My sense is this will close a juice 2.5 at home against the Denver Broncos. We're assuming Pat Mahomes obviously plays in the game.
So gambling thought out of the chute here, because I know you like the Giants in the upset in week 1, which I respect. That feels like an under to me. 48.5 feels a little bit like Dallas's offense is amazing and everybody still thinks the Cowboys defense is terrible. I don't think the Cowboys defense is going to be terrible. I think the Cowboys, of the teams that were awful last year, and they were awful, I still would have a lot of questions about the Giants' run defense, even if I love their pass rush. We talked about the Bills' defense earlier. The Bengals invested a lot in their defense, but I still am not a huge fan of all. Dallas's moves all make sense to me, and you get the new defensive coordinator bump. So I think Dallas is going to be, and they've heard all year is about how terrible their defense is going to be and all that. And then you add in left tackle questions for the Cowboys and the Giants pass rush. I could see that being a defense ahead of the offense, sloppy week 1, 23-20 game. And so I like under 48.5 in that spot of the 3 games you mentioned, if we're talking gambling.
About 30 seconds to go here. What is the hottest take for this upcoming NFL season that you're currently marinating on? Anywhere you want to take it in 30 seconds.
Okay, well, you asked me this last week, and I gave you my Jackson Dart, the forgotten quarterback. So I will give you Shane Steichen, the forgotten coach.
Ooh, I love it.
Colts, he's been the head coach for 3 years. They've won 8 games, and 9 games. His leading passer each of the years is a different player. The 3 passers, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. He also had an amazing offense with Jalen Hurts, and we now know that is not a guarantee. And he had an amazing offense with Justin Herbert. We now know that's not a guarantee. The guy can flat out coach. I like the Colts this year. I think people forget it.
And by the way, Colts plus 3.5 week 1 at home against the Ravens. If Shane Steichen got fired by Indy, he would get hired 2 days later by another team. Danny, can't wait to watch you for the full 3 hours today. First things first on Fox Sports 1. Enjoy your time off after that, buddy.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Our friend Danny Parkins joining us here on You Better You Bet. Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you. Coming up on the other side, we will continue to roll through week 1 in the National Football League right after this.
The biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
This is Bob Costas, not Kostos, but you are listening to Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, brought to you by BetMGM.
The wonderful Sports Wednesday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. Always fun chatting with our pal Danny Parkins from First Things First on Fox Sports 1. Danny loves the Bears in Week 1 against the Panthers. I do too. And I'm not a Bears fan. Can't call me biased. I do like the Bears coming up in Week 1 in Carolina. I thought the conversation that him and I had about the Bills' defense was interesting. From what I can gather from talking to people around the league, there's a lot of optimism right now on what the Jim Leonard defense can look like for Buffalo. I love the rookie linebacker Caleb Elam-Zor, and you are starting to hear a lot of good things about him. I love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming over in the secondary. I like D. Alford signed in that secondary. If Bradley Chubb can give you anything rushing the passer along with Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver, I'm bullish on this Bills defense this year. And we know the Bills offense is going to be electric. I just think both AFC East teams, the Bills and the Patriots, are going to be great this year, like last year. Leaning towards New England to win the division, but willing to change my mind when we get there. But I do think we will see both those teams, Buffalo and New England, in the playoffs. And if that's true, the AFC, it's loaded, right? How many teams does the AFC North send? You can make a case for 3. I won't, but you could. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. You could make a case. I might. And maybe you wouldn't. For 3 teams in the AFC South. Houston, Jacksonville, and Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. And obviously you could make the case, and I think all of us would, for 3 teams from the AFC West, the Chargers, the Broncos, Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's 2 teams in the East, 3 in the North, 5, 3 in the South, 8, 3 in the West, 11. And this is not including any potential surprises for only 7 spots. There are going to be good teams left on both sides, but I think especially in the AFC, good teams left out of the postseason this year in the American Football Conference. Enjoyed that conversation with Danny and enjoyed rolling through a bunch of the games Week 1 in the NFL with my betting and actual thoughts on the games. I think New England will keep it very close, if not beat the Seahawks in the season opener. I think the Niners will beat the Rams in Australia. No one's going to like that, maybe except for me, for the Niners to win that game. I trust Kyle Shanahan, like the Bears in Carolina, to win and cover and maybe win by a lot. And forget about the points. The Jets will go into Tennessee and flat out beat the Titans. Remember them? What's there to remember? They stink. Jets money line in Tennessee. Lions Saints, a bit of a confusing game for me. Lean towards the over. And Steelers Falcons, I'd love to bet Atlanta. Very, very, very tough. Very tough to bet Atlanta, knowing they have basically 0 pass rush. Here's Aaron Rodgers. He might be able to hang back in the pocket and actually not have to get rid of the ball after 1 second. Mike McCarthy, first game in Pittsburgh at home. I don't want to like the Steelers. I really want to like Atlanta. I don't know if I can, given all that's transpired recently with the Falcons. Anthony DeBundo will stop by from The Ringer, our good friends, later this hour. We will get you set to bet and talk about the Premier League season coming off of the World Cup. Probably a little NFL, maybe some baseball with DeBundo as well. Colin Wilson next hour talking college football here on You Better You Bet. But for now, right now, let's continue our thoughts on Week 1. This Texans-Bills game in Houston on Sunday, September 13th. This is a potential AFC Championship game preview in Week 1. I've said a few times recently how worried it makes me that everyone loves the Texans. I am in the group of people that one could describe as everyone. Now, I've liked them for months. I've been saying for months that I think the Texans have the upside to go to the Super Bowl, certainly the upside to play on Championship Sunday. Now it seems like it's en vogue that everybody loves the Texans. And I'm not insinuating that people are parroting what I'm saying, but I guess it was a little more obvious than I thought. That if you take this defense, right, which, assuming health, and you could say this about any team, right? If injury strikes, they're in trouble. But if the Texans defense is going to be healthy, like they are going to be a top 3 defense in the league, it's almost impossible for them not to be. They have the best players. So if they're healthy, they are going to dominate defensively. And if that's true, and I believe it is, then all CJ Stroud has to be is average, and they're going to win a ton of games. I don't need CJ Stroud to be Warren Moon. I don't need him to be Pat Mahomes. I don't need him to be Josh Allen. I don't even need him to be rookie season CJ Stroud for this to all come to fruition. I need him to not suck, which he did at points at the end of last year. And if that's true, and he doesn't suck, how are the Texans not winning 11 or 12 games, 13 games this year? My sense is, given Josh Allen's foibles in Houston against the Texans, and we even alluded to it, Danny and I did, in one of the Josh Allen playoff losses, which was his first playoff game, which was on the road in Houston, in Allen's second season, when the Texans won by 3 in overtime, and then the next week, if you'll recall, they went up, Deshaun Watson and Houston did, 21-0 on the road in Kansas City against the Chiefs, before the Chiefs scored like 55 unanswered points, and I'm only exaggerating by a little bit. So Josh Allen, Houston has kind of been a house of horrors for Josh Allen. My guess is a lot of people are going to like the Texans in week 1 because of that. Well, look at Josh Allen against the Texans defense, right? A lot of people love the Texans this year. Houston's at home. Price of the game is basically pick the winner. Makes me nervous. Makes me nervous. I should bet the Texans in this game, and perhaps I will. But doesn't it feel like to you, and even if you want to strip bets away, which is totally fine if you're out there listening or watching and you don't bet, this is a fun conversation whether you bet or not. Don't you feel like people are going to like Houston to win the game? Like, is everyone going to like Houston to win this game? And how surprised is everyone going to be if and when Buffalo wins? I'm just saying. So, maybe I'll end up betting Houston. I might just be on the sidelines as far as the side of the game is concerned. But just to double down on what I was saying on the Bills defense and the Texans defense, the total of this game is 44.5. Feels a little too high. So if I had to bet that, gave me $100, made me bet the game, I'd bet under 44.5 with the Texans and the Bills. You bet on this Wednesday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. We do have some news in the NFL, per ESPN's Adam Schefter. New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara expected to be sidelined for at least a month due to a sprained MCL. So if that's true, Kamara's going to miss probably the first couple games of the regular season for New Orleans, which are brutal games for him to miss, on the road in Detroit against the Lions, on the road in Baltimore against the Ravens. The good news here for New Orleans is that Travis Etienne is obviously signed to be the lead back of this team. I don't think Alvin Kamara necessarily has it anymore for the Saints. This is not, and I think you will see people say, well, now the Saints are without Jordan Tyson and Alvin Kamara. Who cares about Kamara? Tyson's the loss for this team. I think so don't make any decisions based on, well, Alvin Kamara is out, so now I can't bet the Saints, or I can't like the Saints. I don't know how much he's actually going to matter this year. Moving on. Bengals and the Bucks coming over tonight in Cincinnati. Cincy, 3.5-point favorites, total 51.5. Baker Mayfield saying yesterday to the news media in Tampa that he believes the Bucks are being underestimated this year. And watch out for us. And everyone thinks we're going to be a losing team this year. I actually don't think that's true. Neither does the betting market. And our friends at BetMGM, Tampa's the favorite to win the NFC South. So can't be that much pessimism about Tampa if that's true. But to a degree, I understand where Baker's coming from. People like me are looking for reasons to like any other team in the division. And Baker's dealing with his contract situation. He's on a lame duck year this year. And some people will say, well, he'll play with a chip on his shoulder and it's going to be great. I think you could just as easily make a case that this is something that could erode the team as the year goes on. The Vita Vea situation. We'll see how healthy the offensive line is come week 1. Is Emeka Egbuka going to be ready come week 1? As the summer has rolled on, it's going to be tough for me to not like Tampa in that division. I said this last hour, just because of everything else that's going on in the NFC South. So if I had to bet this game, I'd take Tampa. I'm down on Cincinnati compared to what a lot of people expect. A lot of people think the Bengals are just going to show up and dominate this year behind what I think is still a questionable offensive line. And I'll believe this defense is good when I see it. Like, I understand Dexter Lawrence is there and Joseph Asai is there, and we've got some new pieces in the secondary. Okay. Al Golden's still calling the defense, and Zach Taylor is still the head coach. I'm not going to like the Bengals. And I don't love Tampa. You give me more than a field goal, I'll take Tampa. Fire the cannons. And let's back what our friend Drew Dinsick said yesterday, the whale capper. One of the sharpest minds out there when it comes to handicapping the NFL. He likes the under 51.5. Good enough for me. Under with the Bengals and the Bucks. Jaguars and the Browns in Jacksonville. The Jags are 7.5-point favorites. The total of the game is 40.5. It is worth noting, and I'm just going to bring this up to make sure I have this exactly correct. There was a trade this morning in the National Football League. The Giants trading offensive lineman who is expected to provide guard depth for them in the interior of the offensive line, Daniel Falele, to the Jaguars for a late round pick in 2027. This is noteworthy because one of the Jaguars' expected starting guards, Patrick McCarry, just underwent back surgery and could miss most of, if not the entire season. Jacksonville's offensive line is in a spot of trouble, especially to open the year. And I have said this a couple times recently. The Browns are not going to be good this year because their offensive line isn't good and because Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders are both bad. But the Browns' defense has good players at all 3 levels. Jared Verse, Carson Schlesinger, Denzel Ward. And there are others, but just saying, they have really, really good players at all 3 levels. And the Jags have offensive line issues. Even if we acknowledge the upside of a Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence offense with a bunch of good receivers, Parker Washington, BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., and Jacoby Myers, maybe some Travis Hunter as well. They're going to be able to score a lot in this game in week 1 with their offensive line being what it is against this Browns defense. And on the flip side, I don't like Cleveland's offensive line, at least not yet. Maybe it can morph into something good as the season rolls along. And Deshaun Watson's going to be the quarterback. And even if I believe, and I think I'm correct, that the Browns have more upside this year with Watson than Sanders, because we've seen it with Watson, albeit years ago, I don't think they're going to be able to score a lot in this game. I would actually look at the under 40.5, and maybe Jacksonville as a teaser leg down to -1.5. Let's go to the afternoon slate. So this is 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Eagles and the Commanders in Philadelphia. Philly, 4.5-point favorite. Total of the game is 47. No Laramie Tunsil for the Commanders, likely to miss the entire season for Washington, which sucks for Jaden Daniels and the Commies. Stephon Diggs recently signed by Washington, obviously, to play receiver. Now, when Tunsil goes out, I come on this show and I tell you, I can't take the Commanders to make the playoffs. And I was debating it because I think collectively we have all kind of forgotten how good Jaden Daniels' rookie season was and that he was an absolute revelation. And I think it was less that Daniels suffered a sophomore slump and more that A, he was injured, and B, the roster construction of the Commanders was atrocious last year. Now, I don't love the roster construction this year. I still, even with Stephon Diggs, don't really love the skill position players in Washington. And the defense with Durante Jones coming over from Minnesota, Brian Flores' disciple, is a little interesting with some of the new pieces, most notably, linebacker Sonny Styles, the 7th overall pick in the NFL draft. I can't get there on the Commanders as a playoff team. But I think what I want to do with Washington, if you're going to give me this many points and I get Jaden Daniels, I think that's going to be something I'm interested in. Like, I think the guy's name was Bob Ryan from Entourage, the old dude. Is that something that you might be interested in? Yes. Yes, it is, Bob. Jaden Daniels. Forget about, you know what? This should actually, get it out of your heads right now. This should not be Washington Commanders plus 4.5. It should be Jaden Daniels plus 4.5. Think of it like that. Jaden Daniels plus 4.5. And I think it makes the decision a little more palatable. Take a break. On the other side, we will get to the Raiders and the Dolphins, the Chargers and the Cardinals, and more. DeBundo at the end of the hour here on a Wednesday on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Anthony DeBundo from The Ringer coming up in about 15 minutes. Colin Wilson from the Action Network next hour on the show. Our bets for tonight will wrap it all up. And I will tell you, maybe the worst bet I've ever placed, and why Dallas Cowboys cornerback Kalen Carson could be the dumbest person in all of sports. That's all still to come. But for right now, we continue to roll through week one in the National Football League. Early thoughts here, about 3 weeks out from the first slate of games. And we move to Las Vegas. What a great place, where the Raiders are 3.5-point home favorites over the Miami Dolphins. The total of the game is 40.5. I've been calling my shot for a while now on this game. I think the Dolphins are going to beat the Raiders. Straight up. Cue the Travis Scott ad-lib. Straight up. It's lit. I like Miami a lot here. Now, I think Miami will not be good this season. It's actually impossible for them to be good. The roster is atrocious. Remember what I said about the Texans a couple minutes ago? That Houston's defense, pending health, is too good to be bad? Like, it's not possible for them to be bad. The Miami Dolphins are the inverse of the Texans' defense. It's not possible for them to be good. There's too many bad players still on this roster. And it's not by design. They don't want to be bad. But this is a situation that Jeff Hafley and company have found themselves in. Like the new regime in Miami. They don't have a chance this year. Like, the amount of dead money on this salary cap is stupid. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, they're paying Tua Tagovailoa about Jeff Bezos-style money to not play for them this year. Crazy. Like, they can't win. They can't win. But they can win this game. There's optimism around the Raiders. I share it. Especially when Fernando Mendoza gets in to the starting lineup. This defense stinks outside of Max Crosby. And my guess is Max Crosby does not end the year with the Raiders, that they will trade him at some point. They should trade him, and the Cowboys should be the team to trade for him. That's a story for another day. My big, bold prediction for this game, I think Miami is going to have 200-plus yards on the ground. 200-plus yards on the ground with Malik Willis and Devon Achane. I think there's volatility here. Now, volatility can mean that the Raiders win big. But I think there's also volatility for the Dolphins to potentially to win this game outright. So Miami plus the points, Miami to win on the road at the Raiders. Chargers and the Cardinals in Los Angeles. LA, a 10.5-point favorite, total of the game, 46.5. Really, really bad news yesterday for the Bolts. Starting center, Tyler Biadasz, who for some reason the Commanders moved on from him. I don't know why that happened. Said it at the time. Tyler Biadasz carted off practice yesterday and is expected to miss potentially a lot of time for LA. Rashawn Slater is going to return to practice soon, but I think it is fair, at this point at least, on August 19th, to say, is this Chargers offensive line going to be as good, at least to start the year, as we think they are? I think it's a fair question to ask. Also, Mike McDaniel, the new offensive coordinator of the Chargers, is on, and I'm on record saying that I think going from Greg Roman to Mike McDaniel is like going from a Pinto to a Ferrari in terms of offensive play calling for Jim Harbaugh's team. Mike McDaniel said this week that he's expecting year 2 results from Justin Herbert in year 1 of the offense. Okay, maybe, but maybe not. Now, I am not expecting Jeremiah Love to play week 1. And that has not been announced. We're not going to know probably until a couple days before the game if Love's going to play or not. If it's true, and Adam Schefter reported it, I believe it is, that Love has a high ankle sprain, I don't think he's playing week 1. But I don't think they need him playing week 1 to cover the spread on the road at the Chargers. Now, I think the Cardinals' decision-making processes have been pretty stupid. Drafting a running back 3rd overall, playing said running back drafted 3rd overall, 14 touches in the first preseason game, he gets a high ankle sprain. So I think the decision-making's pretty dumb with Monty Ossenford and Michael LaFleur in this sense. But I'll tell you something. Talk to people around the league, read a bunch of stuff from people you respect, listen to stuff from people you respect, watch stuff from people you respect. There's optimism that Mike LaFleur is going to have this offense humming this year. And they have good players. MHJ. Maserati Marv? Could be. Michael Wilson. Trey McBride. Jacoby Brissett's more than competent. I'm going to end up taking the points, I believe, with Arizona, plus 10.5 in week numero uno. Vikings and the Packers in Minnesota. Minnesota, a 1-point favorite. The total in the game is 45. Something important to say right off the bat here is when you conceptualize the Green Bay Packers early in the season, you have to remember that they don't have Micah Parsons. So he's not playing in week 1, probably not going to play until week 6 in a delicious, serendipitous matchup against Micah's old team, the Dallas Cowboys. But Parsons is not playing in week 1. And the Green Bay defense, it will obviously be dramatically different when Micah Parsons is there versus not there. Easy to understand, right? Like, does a defense get better or worse than one of like the 3 best defensive players in the league is on the field or not? Of course. So this is not the Micah Parsons-led Green Bay defense. This is the Micah Parsons-less Green Bay defense on the road in Minnesota against Kyler Murray, who I'm bullish on this year, in Kevin O'Connell's offense. Now I'm starting to come around on the Packers potentially being a playoff team this year. Matt LaFleur does have his issues, I believe, as a head coach. I don't think he's perfect. Like, I would not put him in the Shanahan-McVay tier, maybe just below that. But every single year, his offenses are top-ranked and top-rated. Whether the offensive line is great or not, whether wide receivers and running backs are injured or not, he always has the offense humming. Always. And Jordan Love has sky-high potential. Even if you don't think he'll ever reach it, you have to acknowledge that the upside is there with Jordan Love. Oh, man, it's so tough. It really is tough. The Packers could absolutely make the playoffs. And over my vacation, I'm going to try and finalize all my opinions if I think Green Bay will make the playoffs or not. But in this game, in that building, week 1, it's going to be raucous. And, in the same way that the betting market's telling you that there's not a big difference between Seattle and New England, this is the betting market telling you that Green Bay is better than Minnesota. The fact that Minnesota, with that home field advantage in week 1, no Micah Parsons, is only a 1-point favorite in this game tells you that bettors feel like Green Bay is a good amount better than the Vikings. And you know that I disagree with that. And that I think the Vikings' upside this year on offense is to be a top 10 offense in the league, with Kyler Murray as the trigger man. With Kevin O'Connell calling the shots, with really good weapons, most notably Justin Jefferson. And if the offensive line stays healthy, like, Kyler's going to get protected. And did I mention Micah Parsons isn't playing in the game? It would be really lame if after this entire offseason of me crediting Minnesota and saying that the Vikings going to be a playoff team this year, for me to pick Green Bay in week 1. I absolutely can't do it. So it'd be like, politically, you're claiming I'm going to vote all Democrat before the midterm elections and then showing up and it's actually, I'm just going to vote, all right wing down the board. You can't do it. I won't do it. I won't be a flip-flopper. I won't be a fraud. Skull, baby. Viking clap. Give me the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Green Bay Packers in week numero uno. Coming up next, Anthony DeBundo from The Ringer joins the show to get us set for the upcoming soccer season following the World Cup. We will break down the Cowboys and the Giants, the Chiefs and the Broncos to end the week 1 slate before the end of the show. Looking forward to that. And we're closing the program with all our bets for tonight. But DeBundo joins us next here on You Better You Bet.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive a WNBA Odds Boost token. To use the token, add a WNBA wager to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Friend of the show, Colin Wilson, stops by in about 25 minutes, talking college football, both for Week 0, Week 1, and the balance of the year. And I'll continue breaking down Week 1 in the National Football League after that. But joining us right now to wrap up hour number 2 on this Wednesday, oh man, great friend of the show, doing awesome work for our pals at The Ringer, the one, the only. I kind of want to call him Tony, like the way Aaron Rodgers calls Anthony Fauci Tony Fauci, because it kind of sounds cool. Anthony DeBundo, Tony DeBundo, on Twitter at Anthony DeBundo. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. I missed the World Cup, but you know what? We've got high-level soccer coming back in 2 days. NFL's right around the corner. We were just saying, Phillies are in a pennant race. So my sporting life is starting to kick back into high gear again after a nice little recharge following the World Cup.
So what I'd like to do here, we'll do some soccer, get people set for that season, perhaps a little NFL and some baseball to close, because I might be talking myself into being back in on the Phils, but we'll do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the entire city. So
you know what, let's just start with this here. As I view the National League, I know the point of this is soccer. That's why I wanted to have you on. But I'm like very into this NL wild card race right now in the NL postseason picture. So I think if you asked a big baseball fan, your best teams in the National League, obviously the Dodgers, even if they don't have the best record, Milwaukee, Atlanta, the Cubs. I look at the Phillies and the Padres, 2 teams currently. I think they're 2 and 3 right now. The 2 and 3 wild card teams. Arizona drifting down a little bit. Ketel Marte not there for Arizona. I could see a world where the Phillies win the National League or the Padres win the National League if they make the playoffs, and I expect both teams to make the playoffs. Your feelings on those teams, your Phils and the Pods?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've never really believed in the narrative that the Dodgers were breaking the sport, at least this year, on the field with their play. This is a roster that's aging. They're showing cracks everywhere. Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, Edwin Diaz, bullpen shaky. The defense has gotten worse month over month. The catching situation now with Will Smith hurt is a real red flag. There are actual holes. So penciling them in as the champs is a little bit premature. And Milwaukee just, took 3 out of 4 from them in Chavez Ravine and won the tiebreaker there. There's still plus money for the 1 seed. But when I look at that second tier, because I do think the Dodgers and the Brewers are rightfully, 1A at the top. The second tier, I see an Atlanta team that is really, really outrunning what I think is some looming regression with their pitching staff. Their starting pitching, their rotation is not it. After Chris Sale, it's just a lot of guys. Tyler Mahle and Bryce Elder and Martin Perez and Perez and Elder especially have gotten blown up a couple times in the last couple weeks here where you're starting to look at them a little differently, and we have long track records of those players. And so you're saying to yourself, all right, who's it going to be? And Philly and San Diego have less depth than those top teams, than the Cubs and the Brewers, the Dodgers. But when you pare down the rosters and you look at, let's take your 3 best starters, your 3 best relievers, and your 5 best hitters who really decide so many of these playoff series, Philly and San Diego can play with all of those teams at the top, especially Philly with their starting rotation. The 3 guys they have at the top, Luzardo, Sanchez, and Wheeler, they're the best 1, 2, 3 in the sport. So I think Philly will feel like, hey, we might not be as good over 162. Same with San Diego. Our roster might be leaking, but when we shore it up for the playoffs, we're right there.
One more baseball question for you. I want to go to the American League where, I'm a Yankee fan, but I'm not a homer, right? I think the audience knows that about me. I never felt that the Yankees were going to win the World Series. I don't think, even if they're fully healthy, I would not bet them or pick them to win the World Series. I want it to happen. I don't think it would. Now with this Max, but I did expect them to get there, to win what I think is a bad American League. Now with this Max Fried injury, and if he doesn't come back and Rodon's the 3rd starter, I don't think the Yankees are even coming out of the American League. If I asked you right now, Anthony, who wins a bad American League and why, who do you got? Still the Yankees?
I think I might pick Boston. But it all comes down to Garrett Crochet.
I might pick Toronto if the Blue Jays get in, which is their half game out.
It's crazy. They're right there, and they have the starting pitching now. They're a really intriguing team. But I would probably say Boston if Crochet comes back healthy. I love their bullpen a lot, at odds, of course. I mean, the Rays are going to have the advantage of not having to play a wild card series. They're going to be the 1 seed. But also, I mean, like this other situation with Chicago, Houston, Texas, they're going to end up in one of those teams is probably in the ALCS. And as crazy as it sounds, since they lost by 22 last night, if Seattle got in, I wouldn't want to play the Mariners. So the AL is fascinating. I haven't placed a wager in the AL in a while. I think Boston can still catch the Yankees for that 4th seed. That will matter quite a bit for home field advantage in that wild card series that's coming up. But it's so tough to see Boston have a ceiling without Crochet, but with him, the whole thing changes.
What if I told you I bet the Seattle Mariners yesterday against the Milwaukee Brewers? What a great bet.
I guess like you probably won't make a worse bet all year.
Well, I mean, the
Those
funny thing
fun,
about it
though.
is,
like when you bet a team and they lose by 22, it's like kind of funny.
Well, like what would you rather have as a sports bettor? Like bet a team and they lose 22-0 or lose like 1-0 and you're invested 22-0 like,
or a walk off.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, dude. And I don't need to tell you this. Baseball, in my opinion, betting on sports for over 20 years is the most aggravating sport to bet on. So give me a 22-0 loss as opposed to bullpen blowing it in the 9th inning. That's absolutely the worst. Before we do soccer, some National Football League. We can do your Colts in a moment here, but give me your strongest betting opinion. This could be something in week 1. This could be something season long in the NFL from Anthony DeBondo.
I am selling the top of the AFC again. And I know that I think a lot of people are kind of pricing and penciling in bounce back years for Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City specifically. Buffalo less so because they were still a good team last year. But I think what we have seen with the new NFL meta, where teams are trying to de-emphasize the importance and pressure put on these modern quarterbacks, where teams are trying to get under center more. They're trying to use play action more, and they're trying to go heavier sets, fewer receivers. I think what that is doing is enabling teams with more depth and more quality around the quarterback to overwhelm these quarterback-driven teams, especially because the new defensive meta is, the McDonald quarters, no explosives, make teams walk the ball down the field. It's very hard to consistently beat these kind of defenses that are playing so safe and whatnot. So I think, again, you have Baltimore, which I think is a declining roster around Lamar Jackson. Buffalo, we'll see with the new defensive coordinator. And Kansas City has a major offensive overhaul underway based on all the reports out of camp. They're going to be running the ball more. They're going to be using Ken Walker about as much as they're using Travis Kelce, it seems. So I think all 3 of those teams are going to be in a little bit of like a weird up and down identity crisis kind of season. Again, still competitive, but I don't think they should be priced above a team like Denver or say even Houston, who are the much more well-rounded teams who are trying to piece together a couple of holes on their roster with, Denver's being their quarterback and Houston's being their O-line. I think those teams should be priced up there with Buffalo, Baltimore, KC. And I'll even say like the Chargers with McDaniel coming in could have some really new ideas to make this a very fun AFC. So I don't agree with the current tier ranking of the AFC.
And I think, you're a Colts fan, right? And I've said a couple times recently that
I'll say that we won't be in the mix.
But
we are not included in that.
Okay, I want you to tell me why in a second. I want to give you kind of like my thesis on Indianapolis here, where if you made me choose a side, I would choose the side that you're on, right? Which is probably that things won't go great this year. But I think we have to acknowledge, right, that the upside is for this team to go like 12-5. Like, it's there. Like, I don't think Tennessee, just as an example, another team in the division, I don't think the Titans have upside this year. I don't see it. The Colts could go to... I really like the Colts defense if guys stay healthy. And then I think Steichen's an offensive wizard. If Daniel Jones stays healthy, we'll see what happens, right? I think they could go 12-5. I also think they could go 5-12. Maybe it'll end up being somewhere in the middle, but I think there's a lot of variance here with Indianapolis. It sounds like you're on more of the negative end of that, Anthony.
I don't see the ceiling. Now, if Jones is just not healthy at all, then there's a floor. Sure. Like they're probably in trouble. But I actually think they're a pretty high floor team. And Steichen's proven this. Think about the quarterbacks that he's had over the last 3 or 4 years. Anthony Richardson, they were a competent offense with him. Gardner Minshew, they were on the verge of the playoffs, almost won 10 games with Minshew most of that season. Richardson was hurt. Riley Leonard comes in last year in the final week and puts up 30+ on Houston. Phil Rivers comes out of retirement, and they were a competent offense for the 3 games he played. Like, they put the ball. pretty consistently. So I think, Jones gives them a pretty high floor. I don't see a ceiling because, one, I don't think there's enough of a pass rush. So I think like your defense has a ceiling of like 8th best in the league, 10th best in the league. I never think it could be an elite defense when I watch them. And then, it still is Daniel Jones, right? So you're not going to get that over the top level of quarterback play sustainably against great teams, I don't think, at this point. I think Jones has proven himself to be a competent starter, but I don't think he's a massive ceiling raiser. So the win totals are 7.5 out there. And like I did take some over, and I think that's a little bit low. But like when I think about how do the Colts win 11 or 12, that's where it gets a lot harder to me. I'm not sure like who's about to break out that's going to cause this. Now Latu could change that to pass rusher, but otherwise I'm kind of like probably another 9 win season.
You better you bet on this Wednesday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. Our guest, Anthony DeBundo from The Ringer, on Twitter at Anthony DeBundo. All right, a little footy. For anyone out there who misses soccer and the World Cup, I am one of those people that misses it. The English Premier League's coming back in a couple days. We're going to have domestic football all around the world, domestic soccer starting in a couple days here. Let's start, Anthony, with your early thoughts on the Premier League, where Arsenal are the defending champs, thrashed Manchester City over the weekend. No Pep Guardiola anymore. What about the Premier League and your expectations in England this year?
Well, it's funny. I'm looking at the odds board that you guys have up here at MGM, and it's like Arsenal plus 105. Now, the market took notice for sure of the Community Shield. Now, I would never say that the Community Shield means a lick. I think it's a glorified friendly. I think it doesn't really matter. But all of the market forces in the last week have pushed toward Arsenal. They get Guimaraes over the line, who I think is a top 5 midfielder in the league from Newcastle, to help shore up the fact that if they had gone into this season with just Declan Rice there, he looked like he was breaking down at the end of the World Cup. I'm not sure how fit he is. I'm not sure he's ready to go for another 50-game season right now. They're going to need to manage his minutes more. Guimaraes will help that in a major, major way. Arsenal gets Solis in. He gets an assist in the Shield the other day. I think he's a valuable kind of like secondary contributor. But it really comes down to Arsenal has the most continuity by far. I mean, look at the rest of the odds board. Man City, new manager, Rodri leaves, Anderson comes in. I love Anderson probably more than anybody out there. But it's still a big shoes to fill, and you're replacing, the greatest manager of the last 20 years, maybe ever, of soccer. Liverpool, new manager, Salah leaves, Van Dijk's 35. There's a lot of continuity questions there. Man United kept Carrick, but he was the interim guy last year, and they have a bunch of new pieces they're trying to bet in. Chelsea, new manager, Xabi Alonso. Tottenham just bought half of a new team and has a manager that's only coached them for about 8 games. So there is so much turnover. And then Arsenal is just sitting there like, well, we can keep maximizing this window. We are the best team. We were the best team last year. We have a style and a way of playing that people don't like, but is efficient. And until that changes, I find it hard to pick anybody but Arsenal to win the league.
So Arsenal to win, I agree with you. Is there a bet for the people in the audience that are disposed towards a wager here and there in the Premier League that you like outside of Arsenal to win? Which I agree with, by the way.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chelsea, and there's a top 4 market out there where they're like minus 120. I love Xabi Alonso more than probably most people do as well. I think the one game a week thing is an underrated feature coming off of a World Cup year, especially where Man United and Liverpool are going to be in European competitions, probably going deep in them. Chelsea have no Europe, and for the first time in a while, that presents them opportunities to have fresher legs, to have fewer injuries, because as much as Chelsea has bought a ton of players, a lot of the really important ones, like Cole Palmer, have barely been healthy for the last few years. And so I think Chelsea, again, a lot of new players coming in again. Morgan Rodgers I'm probably lower on than most people, but Palmer and Rodgers together is a pretty fun combination of skills in your midfield. I think Chelsea, for me, it's kind of like a toss-up between 3, 4, and 5 with Liverpool, United, and Chelsea. I would go with Chelsea over the other 2.
As a Chelsea fan, I love that. Need to hit on what I perceive to be the juiciest storyline in soccer right now as everything gets set to return, which is Jose Mourinho returning to Real Madrid and there's Netflix just has a 3-part documentary on Mourinho that I've watched 2/3 of, and it is spectacular. So Mourinho goes to Real Madrid, wants to buy Rodri, who I think everyone should know, right? Because he just won the Best Player award at the World Cup, winning it for Spain. He spurns Real Madrid to go to Barcelona. Barcelona are the favorites in La Liga. I can't wait to watch La Liga this year. I'm going to root for Real Madrid like they're the Yankees in Game 7 of the World Series. Anything going on with you in La Liga here with Barca and Mourinho and Real?
Yeah, it's funny how fast things can change in soccer, because 2 or 3 years ago, the conversation was, okay, well, Barca might be better right now, but look at all this young talent Real Madrid have. Like, Real Madrid's about to take over because of guys like Tchouaméni and Camavinga, and they have this midfield, and Fede Valverde, and they had just signed Jude Bellingham, and they're like, oh my goodness, like Real Madrid is building an absolute behemoth. 2 years later, Barcelona has Pau Cubarsí and Lamine Yamal, who are the 2 best under 20 players maybe in the world. And that is the driving force behind the fact they've won the La Liga and relatively comfortably last year. Now they bring in Rodri. And look, flickball is not the easiest thing to execute consistently. Pau Cubarsí looked a whole lot more comfortable in the Spanish system than he did at Barcelona at times. But bringing in Rodri to help put out fires, getting him in a slightly lower intensity league than the Prem, where I thought in the second half of last season, he was starting to struggle physically. He was coming off a major injury. He wasn't quite the same Rodri. And then the slower pace of the international game really helped him. If that's any inclination of how he might do in La Liga, you add that defensive ball-winning presence like Rodri to a team that really is only lacking one thing, and that's defensive ball winning. I think Barcelona is the best team in the world entering 2026 this year. And Real Madrid has opportunities to put it together. Nobody's going to doubt a team that features Vinny, Mbappe, Bellingham in the same front, 3 or 4 players. But they still haven't had the right manager to put it all together, to manage the egos and the tactics. It's a hard thing to do. And Mourinho, I think he can manage the egos, but at this point in his career, what is he as a tactician? What does it look like? What does a great Jose Mourinho team look like? We don't know because we haven't seen one in many years. So it's a fascinating experiment. I'm also excited to watch it, but I think Barca clearly has a better team right now.
So like 20 seconds for this. If you had to pick a Champions League winner, which you don't, to be clear, but if you did, you would take Barcelona to end the 2-year reign of PSG?
Yeah, probably. The thing with the new format is like you can probably just wait till January. The odds aren't really going to change that much. I can't see anybody like running away with the Champions League. So, those top 4 or 5 teams will probably be around there, same price in January. So you can kind of just wait. But it's fun to see those showcase matches in the fall.
Great. We went mano-a-mano in the World Cup. You had Spain. I had France. Didn't go great for me. I'll take Real Madrid this year. You can take Barcelona. Right. We'll see how it goes this time. You're the best, buddy.
Let's do it.
Ringer Wise Guys. You can check out Anthony on the Ringer's Gambling Show with Cousin Sal, Raheem Palmer, and others. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony DeBundo. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Anthony, big-time sports guy. Baseball, NFL, soccer. We absolutely love it all here on You Better You Bet. We also love college football here on You Better You Bet, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Colin Wilson from the Action Network Big Bets on Campus joins Nick Kostos right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Roy. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, Colin Wilson, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We will finish this hour, our thoughts early in the process, week 1 in the National Football League. Couple more games for us to hit, including Sunday and Monday Night Football. All our bets for tonight will wrap up the show, and I will tell everybody why Dallas Cowboys corner Kalen Carson might be the single dumbest person in all of sports. But before we get to all of that, Colin Wilson, I think, is laughing. I see him off air. I'm guessing, Colin, do you know why Kalen Carson's the dumbest person in all of sports? Colin Wilson is our guest. Action Network, Big Bets on Campus. If you bet college football, if you like college football, check out Big Bets on Campus with Colin and our friend Stuckey, breaking down all of the conferences in college football. They've already started releasing their preview episodes. Check it out wherever you find your pods. What's going on, my friend? Are you aware of the Kalen Carson situation in the NFL?
I'm actually laughing because we're going to segue into college football, and in the exact same Metroplex, TCU lost a star defensive back for either, this happened last night while we were recording the Big 12 podcast, either he brandished a weapon or he beat the living crap out of somebody in the locker room and got kicked off the TCU team immediately. So TCU lost, like you're talking about the Cowboys, and I'm thinking about my TCU wager I put in, like what's going on in the Metroplex with these guys, right? They're dropping like flies.
So I'll pay it off here. The Kalen Carson story. Did you see the clips of the fight at Cowboys Saints joint practice yesterday?
Yes.
So Kalen Carson decided to get into it with a New Orleans Saints player. Do you know the player that he got into it with, or no? Are you aware or unaware of this?
I am unaware.
Okay, so the player that he got into it with, his name is Brock Rechsteiner.
Oh God!
He is the real life son of WWE Hall of Famer Freakzilla, the big bad booty daddy Scott Steiner. Brock Rechsteiner proceeded to pick Kalen Carson up and like belly to belly suplex him on the field. Kellen Moore and Brian Schottenheimer had to talk about, do we need to cancel this joint practice? Is this going to get out of hand? A bunch of fights. Like, you have to have a little bit more awareness than that. Like, if you're going to pick a fight with somebody, don't do it with Scott Steiner's kid. The Steiner math is not adding up there, Colin.
I mean, is the NFL ready for a Frankensteiner on field? Probably not. But that's
what Roger Goodell, maybe.
Yeah. So we have some problems with practices and some fights going on. But the TCU thing is interesting. I know that you and I are going to veer into college football, but I was pretty heavy into the Horned Frogs, and now all of a sudden we're losing defensive backs.
So do you have like a strong betting thought on TCU to share now following this news?
Yeah, I think everybody needs to know that they're bringing in Harvard quarterback Jaden Craig, and he might be the best in the Big 12, and I think he's going to be on NFL radars. The guy was fantastic in 4 years in the Ivy League, and he comes in with UConn's old offensive coordinator, Gordon Samish, and the two of them are just going to run, and I would say a very efficient offense that cuts down all the turnovers that you saw with Josh Hoover in years past. It's an advantageous schedule once they get back from probably lapping Bill Belichick a few times overseas in the first game. They come back. They only leave the state of Texas twice. And I took them 20-1 to win the Big 12. I think they're going to match up with Texas Tech there. But that number is way too large for the talent that TCU has. And that's all. Now I've got to worry about their defensive backs and see what they can recover after losing one of their stars from either a fight or he brandished a weapon. You know how college football goes, Nick. There's a lot of rumors out there when news breaks, so we got to get that locked down.
Is North Carolina going to be brutal again? Year 2 with Bill Belichick?
we're recording our ACC podcast tonight, and it's going to take everything inside of me not to say that they go 0-12. They're bad.
Wow.
Like they and the sentiment is not just me. Like I've been to a few media days, the Big 10 and the Big 12, and all of us, what is going on with this North Carolina program? And there's just bad decision after bad decision. The one stabling force is Steve Belichick, and he's out he hasn't been able to coach because of medical reasons. So not really sure the culture or what's going on with the players and the culture and not being able to produce. But Belichick does not have a grip on this roster like you would think that he does after his career in the NFL.
And look, the situation with Mike Lombardi just feels like it's like the vibes are bad right now in Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick. All right, let's talk some macro college football ahead of the season. Last year, I feel like you were on Indiana before anybody else. Or at least like in the conversation of people that were on Indiana before anybody else. I was a little skeptical about Indiana being that good, like national championship quality good. You kind of felt that way early in the year that this could be like that type of season for Curt Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, and the Hoosiers. Do you have a team entering this year, and it doesn't have to mean that they win the national championship, but a team that you feel that way about, that people may like, but maybe not like as much as they should?
Oregon is the team that I think is winning the national championship. And my criticism of Dan Lanning year after year after he's been there, because remember, he came from Kirby Smart, and I said, well, the second that Eugene is able to produce a defensive line that can play in the SEC, Oregon's going to be a real national title contender. But then they line up with guys like Kayvon Thibodeau. These guys are great pass rushers. Oregon's been able to produce that, but they've never been able to produce run stoppers. And now they are loaded in the two deep with guys that are just going to stuff everybody behind the line of scrimmage. Dan Lanning told me at Big Ten Media Days that this is the most experienced and most talented defensive line that he's ever had. And by the way, on the other side of the ball, you have best in class at running back that's deep, best in class at wide receiver with Decorian Moore leading the way. And then Dante Moore, who was trying to avoid questions at media days about some sort of $55 million deal with the Jets that it was on his table, and he turned down going to the NFL, turned his phone off, and went and golfed for a couple weeks. So yeah, Dante Moore is back in college football only because of the Jets, I believe. So Oregon is best everywhere except for maybe one spot. Their secondary can be challenged a little bit, but if you look at their schedule, I'm not sure who's going to get into that. The Big Ten's gone 3 straight. I think they go 4 straight, and Oregon's the team that does it.
So Oregon is among the favorites to win the national championship, but not the sole favorite. Oregon plus 800 right now at our show sponsor, BetMGM. Conversely, if you like Oregon a little more than most people do, Colin, there has to be a team not North Carolina, that you dislike more than people do and you think is going to fall short of expectations. Who's going to disappoint this year in college football?
I'll give you 2 of them quickly. Baylor's a corpse. Dave Aranda's on his way out. When you have to go and hire other defensive coordinators and I
can't believe he's still the coach. Like the fact that you said, I can't believe he's still there.
The thing about Dave Aranda is in person, he is the most honest, transparent, and it's hard not to love him. And I wonder if that's the relationship he has with the ADs or whatever, who's making the decisions there at Baylor, because it's hard to not like him. Like, as a genuine, unbelievable human being, he's 100%. But you've lost this defense multiple years. You can't stop the pass or the run. And this was your specialty. Like, you won the national title in 2019 with Joe Burrow because you're the defensive coordinator, and now you can't even run a defense at Baylor. So I could save you. The DJ Lagway is not ready for this workload. I mean, Baylor throws the ball 500 times a year. DJ Lagway I think he's thrown in his career over 2 years 400 times. I'm not sure he's ready for that. And, Baylor is just a walking corpse. Now, the other one that is not going to get a lot of love is Iowa. Iowa is in deep trouble, under 7.5. One of our favorite bets. It's already on our board over at BBOC. And really the thing is Iowa's never going to be a flashy offense, so you got to be good in the trench. They're completely rebuilding their defensive line. It's a bunch of names that are coming from FCS that have had to transfer in. Their offensive line is a little bit of a mess. And then their quarterback situation is between Jeremy Hecklinski and Hank Brown. In baseball, they have a term called VORP, value over replacement player. Neither of these guys are what a power 4 quarterback need to be. I'm not even sure they would win jobs at the group of 6 level. Iowa is in big trouble this year.
Love it. So Iowa and Baylor, the two teams that Colin could see disappointing. You bet on this Wednesday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. Our guest, Colin Wilson, Big Bets on Campus, Action Network, one of the best college football minds and handicappers out there. Colin, what are you doing with Kalen DeBoer and Alabama this year, ranked outside the top 10 for the first time in almost 2 decades?
Interesting that they were outside the top 10. Like I don't, in my power ratings, I'm not sure I have them in the top 20. And I can't, I think I came on here months ago and said that I'm on the under. Well, let's go ahead and tell everybody why. I mean, they have no running game. Jam Miller's now in the NFL. And trust me, he was dodging defenders left and right in the backfield because they didn't have an offensive line to protect him. They still don't have a run game. From returning offensive line snaps, they're 112th in FBS. Alabama doesn't have an offensive line. They have no answers at running back. And they have a quarterback battle going on right now between 5-star Keelan Russell, who can use his legs, and then Austin Mack, who dates all the way back to the Washington days with DeBoer. So, depth and experience are issues not just on the offensive side of the ball. They've lost everybody at the linebacker position. They've all been, it's been rated by the NFL draft, and that happens to Alabama yearly. But when you have an offense that is really going to be, can I hit Ryan Coleman deep and nothing, you're going to have your defense get some stops, and linebacker is not a good place to have a depleted unit. And there's a lot of places where they can lose on this schedule. Florida State beat them last year. They could beat them again. South Carolina has lost to Alabama 2 years in a row by 1 possession. They are just on the cusp of beating them. And then there's Georgia, Texas A&M, at Tennessee, at LSU against Lane Kiffin. And then there's the Iron Bowl where anything could happen. Like, people are like, there's no way Alabama's losing 4. I mean, they just look at the helmet and they think of Saban and they're like, there's no way this team could be 8-4. I'm telling you, they could be 7-5. There's plenty of pitfalls in the schedule.
Just this has nothing to do with betting for this season, but I know Kalen DeBoer got an extension. If Alabama goes 7-5 this year, does he make it to next season?
Can they pony up enough money to get him out on his buyout? And the thing is, if you're, and I've said this a few places,
you'd hope the answer would be yes for Alabama, right? This isn't like Mike Norvell in Florida State.
You would think that, but the problem is Alabama's been really slow to the table with an NIL program and generating money through the NIL. And that is the thing where kids were taking a discount to come to play for Saban. So they didn't worry about forming an NIL group. They didn't worry about paying players to come. But what happened the second that Saban announced his retirement? Caleb Downs left the program and went to Ohio State because they didn't have any money day one. They didn't have a plan for Saban to retire. And now they've been playing catch up and they just don't have the donors. And I'm sorry, that plays out on the field.
Do you see similar misfortune befalling Dabo Swinney and Clemson this year? Clemson unranked right now in the ACC.
They should be unranked. I mean, this is a 7-8 win team. You're not getting the players. You're not you may be getting 5 stars, but on the offensive side, you're not developing them like you used to. And now you're bringing Chad Morris back as your offensive coordinator. Like, what he's done since he left Deshaun Watson and those national title teams back a decade ago is he's done nothing, right? He was at Arkansas for 2 years, never won a conference game. He went and coached in high school for a little while and then makes this grand leap back to his offensive coordinator position for Dabo. And I'm glad the band is back together. But Deshaun Watson, college version, is not walking through that door and dominating college football. So they don't have the players. For years, they haven't been able to develop these guys. And that was Dabo's big thing for you. I'm not touching the portal because we develop at Clemson. Well, you're not developing good enough to stay as a true contending playoff team. And now the fall off has been severe. And it's just a world we live in right now. Like, there was a time Clemson wasn't good. We called them Clemsoning, and they always had 7 or 8 wins. And all of a sudden you get Deshaun Watson and all these other great stars and you make it work. But college football has changed so much in 10 years between NIL, transfer portal. You have to be quick on the fly to grab freshmen and sophomores that aren't getting playing time. They're doing none of that. And I'm not saying that Dabo's not doing the work, but it looks like he hasn't been doing the work.
Wow. A couple Big Ten questions for you here. You like Oregon to win the national championship. That would be 4 different national champions in 4 years out of the Big Ten. If I made you pick, because there's 3 big teams in the Big Ten, right? Aforementioned Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. Out of the other 2, Ohio State or Indiana, which one do you like more and why?
I have Ohio State power rated higher. I have no issues with their run game. And really, to me, when you ask me to compare apples to apples in college football in August, I'm going to go to the trench and who has the best trench and who has the best running game, because that's ultimately what moves the chains. That's what lets you control clock. Right now, Indiana's the one that has the questions in the ground game because of, I mean, look at what's going. I mean, they got completely nailed by the NFL by getting their running backs out of there. So now they're turning to Turbo Richard, who was at Boston College. Not to bag on Turbo Richard, he had some really good elusive numbers for Boston College, but it's a question mark. You can't lose Pat Coogan off your offensive line to the NFL. You can't lose, Kalen Black and these other stars that they had and expect to produce the same run game. Also, Fernando Mendoza is really good at play action pass. Can Josh Hoover run play action pass? Because he's been in shotgun for years with TCU. So I have a lot more questions on the stability and efficiency of the offense with Indiana than I do with Ohio State. That doesn't mean that I'm bagging on Indiana. I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. Like I sat right in front of Cignetti and he's like, I only take good kids. I check them like apples. And the second they start bruise them up, I toss them off the team. That's the difference between Cignetti and the SEC. Like Lane Kiffin will take anybody off the street, but Cignetti is very, very closely watching the development of his players. So I'm not bagging on Indiana, but the more stable team right now is Ohio State.
A different sort of Big Ten related question here. So there's a big three, right, in the Big Ten, which we have details, yes. Right? Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. I think you can make the case potentially, Colin, for a couple teams to be the fourth best team in the Big Ten and probably get into the college football playoff, right? Michigan, USC, Penn State would be the three that I think make the most sense. Maybe you like somebody else. Right now, if you had to guess, which is the fourth best team in the Big Ten, and does that team make the college football playoff?
Well, my podcast partner and I probably blew 30% of our entire Big Ten podcast fighting about USC and Penn State. It went on for a while.
So not Michigan. So Michigan not in consideration Michigan. For you guys.
Look, I mean, Kyle Whittingham's job is to come in there and put out the fire that's inside the building, right? And to have and the reports from what Bryce Underwood has been in the spring and what he's been in fall camp is not good. He's trending backwards as far as raw talent and being developed, which is another reason why I took Oklahoma on the money line against Michigan here in week 2 for a game of the year. So Michigan's, I mean, they're still going to have a good defense. It's not going to be a great defense. It's still a very decent, good defense. And Whittingham is going to get them to the 8-9 win level. And there's not going to be any of this drama that Michigan has had. As far as USC and Penn State is concerned, like I get it with USC that you believe in their offense and the ability to score. I get that. But I have 2 problems with USC, and they're big problems. One, your defensive coordinator is Gary Patterson. And he got sloppy at the end of his tenure at TCU, and they started missing tackles, and they fell bottom 10 in every defensive category. What did he do after that? He went and he kind of was an analyst at Texas, wasn't asked to come back. He went to Baylor in 2023 in the offseason, wasn't asked to be around during the season. Now all of a sudden he shows up as a defensive coordinator at USC, and he hasn't been able to field a good tackling group per PFF in years at the end of his time at TCU. So I don't like that move, especially when you're jumping down from the coordinator that I do love, which is D'Anton Lynn, who moved to Penn State with Matt Campbell. Penn State is a playoff team. I've bet them plus 360 to make the playoff. And I think that it's best described by this. Like the roster, like the moves with the coaching staff, love the schedule. The schedule is a joke. I mean, almost every game they're favored by 3 TDs. I mean, the toughest games, they host USC. They have to go to Washington. After that, that's it. I mean, literally the floor for Penn State in the schedule is 9 wins. That is borderline playoff. And if they win 2 of those 3 or one of those 3 that I mentioned, that's a 10-win team. It's automatically in the playoff. And I think what's important to know about D'Anton Lynn is the defensive. What he did at USC just did magician work. But when Lincoln Riley had defenses that were in the bottom 10, couldn't tackle, heavily penalized, were just getting run over by everybody. Then D'Anton Lynn moves over from UCLA. And they're all of a sudden top 15 in tackling, top 15 in havoc. Like USC started producing legit defenses. And that's all him. And now he's at Penn State. Also, I wouldn't back a USC team that can't travel. Look at their record crossing 2 time zones or more. It's horrific. Lincoln Riley I don't know if he leaves the team. I don't know if they're flying red eyes across the nation. I don't know what's going on, but USC can't travel. And they have to go to the East Coast multiple times this year. So I'm out on the Trojans. I'm in on Penn State.
Final question. I will be on vacation rest of the weekend next week. So this is, maybe selfishly for me, but also for our audience. Maybe it's TCU laying 7.5 against North Carolina. Do you have a week 0 bet that you really love for everybody?
Yeah, I haven't. We're cutting that pod next week, so I've got who I like. I do like Virginia in the opener. I do like TCU to absolutely run North Carolina off the field. Memphis UNLV is probably going to be a spot for the Tigers. And then after that, I would definitely look at a San Jose State USC over. And this is just me looking at the board. So, but favorite, you're right. TCU in this, I don't think it's coming down to 7. If you see the market move to -7 on TCU, I believe it's a group that's trying to shape a number that's going to come back in.
MGM's got it. MGM's almost at 8 for TCU North Carolina. Looking at it right now,
I make it 15. So if it falls to a 7 at any other book, it's simply being shaped because it's going to get whacked. So there's your bet. There's your handicap for week 0.
TCU, even with the cornerback brandishing a gun and getting thrown off the team, North Carolina potentially that bad. TCU laying it against Carolina. Colin, you're the best. We'll just say it again. I love Colin. I love Stuckey. They've been coming on this show for years. They do awesome work on college football. Check out Big Bets on Campus if it tickles your fancy. My sense is it will. Thank you very much, my friend. Stay well. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Nick.
The great Colin Wilson joining us here on You Better, You Bet. Well, I'm excited to bet TCU now against North Carolina. Don't know if I would have made that bet before just because I respect Bill Belichick, but apparently it's getting that bad for Bill Belichick at North Carolina. Okay, we still have a bunch of sports-related topics that we need to hit on the show today, and I'm going to effort to get them in, whether it's PCA and Ohtani continuing their heroics in the race for NL MVP, a couple more games to hit week 1 in the National Football League, but on the other side, I've got some real-life stuff to discuss with everybody. I hope that you will humor me because I have something serious to talk about, and I'm not joking, coming up next here on You Better You Bet.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Progressivecommercial.com. If you will all humor me for a few minutes, I want to get away from a couple topics I was going to discuss as it regards the world of sports. Something real life to bring you here on the show. I was aware of this news this morning, but didn't know if it was going to be made public. And it's been made public now, so I'm going to discuss it here before I go on vacation for a week and a half. The name that I'm going to say in a moment, I don't think a lot of people are going to know, and that's totally okay. I'm going to explain why it matters a lot to me, and not just me, but a lot of people you know from sports media. So this morning, I would say, outside of my family, my biggest mentor in life, and certainly my professional mentor, and the professional mentor, again, of many, many names that you know in sports media. Because while I think it's fair to acknowledge, I'm a Fordham guy, class of 2005, that Syracuse is kind of the preeminent school as far as sports broadcasting and sports broadcasters are concerned. Fordham's right up there. I would say that Fordham's probably right behind Syracuse right now as far as that's concerned. And that is because of the work done by Bob Aarons, who was in charge of sports at WFUV 90.7 on your radio dial in the New York tri-state area, 50,000 watt radio station. Bob was the executive producer of WFUV Sports from 1997 to 2018. Obviously, that's my entire time at Fordham from 2001 to 2005. Bob passed away this morning at the age of 89 in his sleep, peacefully, after long battle with an illness. A lot of us in the Fordham community, and I'll just say, there are names that people won't know who are off air. Tony Reale was on the show recently. Tony's 4 years older than me. Tony and I spoke yesterday on the phone. I don't say that to name drop at all. Just to say that, there's a lot of people that were positively impacted that that this man touched. And we got the news yesterday. I think we all kind of knew that Bob was not doing well. Again, 89 years old, was in a hospice care facility for a long time. I had seen him last year, and a lot of us had the opportunity yesterday to call the hospice center that he's at, and the nurse and one of his caregivers, who is a wonderful woman, the mother of a WFUV Sports graduate, held the phone to Bob on speaker so we could all say our goodbyes to Bob. And he was not able to respond because he's very much towards the end of his life, passed away this morning. But she was nice enough to kind of tell us what he was doing in those moments, whether a smile on his face, arms crossed, and what a tribute to this man to have so many, I would say young people, but I'm not that young anymore at age 43, but so many young students at Fordham, whether you go on to careers in broadcasting or not, that this man touched. And I think it's important to note just how brilliant he was with his teachings, not just about broadcasting, but about life. Now, for the people that know me in my personal life, which is not many, right, in the audience of this show, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. And I think I'm pretty easy to get along with on a personal level. I don't really have beef with people. I'm being I can be a jerk like anybody else can, but I think at my heart I'm a pretty nice guy and pretty easy to get along with. Professionally, I am well aware that I can be a pain in the ass. And I'm sure, while the members of our show crew, may like me, I'm sure that they would all admit, whether publicly or privately, Nick can be a stickler. And Nick can be a pain in the ass to work with. And that is not entirely because of the things that I learned at Fordham, but in great part due to those things that I learned at Fordham. When, as an 18-year-old college student in 2001, I learned that good enough was not good enough, that you had to strive to be great, and that there were always questions to be asked about what was being done and if it was being done the right way. I remember one of my first, WFUV meetings, right? And I've told this story before. It was right after 9/11. This is how I remember it. This is my first semester at Fordham, right? September 2001. Like the week after 9/11, there was a career fair, right? At Eddie's Parade, it's called, which is like the big outdoor lawn on Fordham's beautiful campus in the Bronx. And I remember walking over to the radio station, and they're like, yeah, kids host sports radio shows and go to cover like the local teams in the area. And it was like in that moment, 18 years old, Nick Kostos, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, I knew it right then and there. Like, I'm going to work for the radio station and I'm going to be in the sports media. Like, I remember it like it was yesterday. And Bob was the guy in charge. And I remember one of our first meetings, and Bob was, a disciple of the late, great Marty Glickman, one of the greatest play-by-play voices in the history of sports, who had passed away a long time ago. But Marty was one of Bob's mentors. And Bob took what Marty had taught him and applied it to us. So we're in a classroom in Keating Hall, which is one of the main buildings, right, where class is and where the radio station was and still is. And he asked us to describe the ceiling from like a play-by-play perspective, right? Tell me about the ceiling. Well, it's yellow. What shade of yellow? And it was funnier than this because he was a very funny guy and we all used to joke about it, but like the lessons were true. There's a ceiling fan. What kind of fan? What's the fan made of? Which way is it spinning? And it was his way of telling us that when you do radio, you have to paint the verbal picture for people. People can't see. You need to tell them everything that's happening. You need to pound them over the head with time and score because there's nothing on the radio that indicates what the time and the score of the game is. And I promise you this, because I have these moments even now at age 43, when I'll be driving and I'll be listening to a game on the radio and I want to put my fist through the radio console because they're not telling me what the time and the score of the game is for minutes at a time. Just like the play-by-play guys, just like blissfully narrating the game, I have no idea what the score is and how much time's left in the quarter or the half or whatever, the period, whatever. To hit the fundamentals. When the Yankees lost to the Diamondbacks in the World Series in 2001, I remember being with my friend, one of my best friends, Pat Reichart. And Pat and Pat's a Red Sox fan, I'm a Yankees fan. So he took jubilation in the Yankees losing. I was devastated by it when they lost to the Diamondbacks. Steve Finley was the Diamondbacks center fielder. And there was a highlight with Steve Finley in Game 7. And we had to cut the highlight. Not that it's going to be played on the air, but to practice, right? To learn how to cut tape. And we have joked in the years that have transpired that we had to hear Bob tell us it's not good enough yet. And the first line of the cut was Finley. And we would just play it over and over again, cutting it until we got it right. Finley, 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 Finley. And that's how I remember Game 7 of the World Series, which the Yankees lost, obviously, with Mariano Rivera on the mound going for 4 in a row, is Finley, 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 Finley. And it's something I've laughed about over the years, but you know what? It's teachings like that that make young people excellent adults when it comes to their jobs. The care that's shown in things. And that good enough's not good enough. If you want to be great, you have to go and be great. And Bob absolutely expressed that to all of us and made sure that we all knew that. And if you want to do this and you want to do it at a high level, you can't just show up. No. You don't just show up. You don't just do something to do it. No. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And that training that we got, I like to say, I'm classically trained. And this is not about me. This is about him, and it's about me and everyone else that he worked with. All the young people that he worked with, many of whom are doing awesome things right now in sports media. That you show up and you do it right. And you have care in your craft. Because if you don't, you're not going to get the opportunity. You're not going to get it. It's not going to come your way because that's not how life works. You can't just be some curtain-jerking jabroni, cut a bad piece of sound. We were classically trained, and I don't take that for granted so that I knew at age 18 or 19 to not have a second and a half of silence at the start of a soundbite. Or when I'm going to do an update, and updates are kind of becoming prehistoric now on sports radio, but something that bothers me when I listen to a sports update is when an anchor will throw to a clip, right? Let's say it's a manager postgame. Like you're doing, let's make this up, Aaron Boone, right? Aaron Boone says the Yankees need to hit better. And then the clip starts and it's Aaron Boone going, yeah, we need to hit better. You can't do that. Your lead has to be different from what the manager is saying, from what the person in the soundbite is saying. And it's something that when you hear me say it, right, it sounds elementary to you. But a lot of people get this stuff wrong. A lot of people do. So at Fordham, under Bob Aarons and under his guidance at WFUV, under the late, great Bob Aarons, we were all trained like we were 25 years old at age 18. We had a master's degree, basically, in the formatics of sports radio. Cutting tape, running a board, producing, hosting. We had basically a master's degree in it when we walked out of college, when I graduated in 2005. And that's just the on-air part of it. You could say the off-air part of it also if you're doing, if you're producing, you're running a board, which I did a ton throughout my career before I became full-time on the air. But it's way more than that. It's way more than that. And you are going to hear in the days to come, I am going to be one of many voices that are going to be saying this. And I think it's going to surprise some of you, not in a bad way, just that why would you know this unless people said it? How many lives this guy touched and how many careers this guy impacted. I walked into Fordham in 2001, not with a lot of confidence. Just in general. Unsure about my place in life. Unsure about where things were headed for me. And look, a lot of 18-year-olds, I'm sure, there are 28-year-olds, 38-year-olds that feel that way, I'm sure. I'm not trying to paint myself as unique. But I entered Fordham with not a lot of confidence. Just in general. I didn't know if I could be great at anything. I didn't know if I had greatness in me. And this guy, Bob Aarons, who again passed away this morning at the age of 89, saw it in me. And would spend hours, not minutes, hours, on myriad occasions, talking with me on the phone, talking with me in person about radio, about the business, and about life. And about life. And I think something that a lot of people can commiserate with, especially men, and I'm not trying to turn this into like a gender thing, it's not, but the relationship between a son and a father is different than a relationship between a son and a mother, right? Or a daughter and a father, or a daughter and a mother. I am not going to be the only person that says, in the days and weeks to come, I won't be even close to the only person that says, this guy was like a father figure to me. At a time when in my personal life, I really needed it. I needed someone to build me up, to make me feel like I could do it, and to challenge me. Because I think, candidly, I think that's something that's missing from society today. And that's a little anecdotal, and maybe it's not totally fair, but to challenge people to be the best version of themselves. Not to just show up and punch a clock. And if that's what you want to do, like, God bless you. It ain't my life. Do what you want. I mean that sincerely. Do what you want. But it's not what I wanted. And I needed someone to help bring that out of me. And I don't know if it gets brought out of me without him. If I didn't have him telling me, you can do this and you can be great at it. To the point that in 2004, and this will be a little bit now, I'll pat myself on the back a little bit, we won at WFUV a New York State Broadcasters Award for the show that I hosted, and I wasn't the only one. My buddy Nick Andrew-Sission co-hosted the show. My aforementioned buddy Pat Reichart produced it. We collectively won a New York State Broadcasting Award for the show that we did from the 2004 NFL Draft at Radio City, the Eli Manning Draft. At age 21. And it's because of this guy. Just a stellar, excellent, magnificent human being. Kind and patient and hysterical. And a lot of the time, and I could say this now that he's passed, and I think that he would like to hear this. A lot of the time we were laughing at him, not with him, not at him in like a ha-ha, what a jerk type of way, but in a, this guy has no idea how unintentionally funny he is kind of way. For example, I will tell a brief story. Andrew Bogish, who is a fixture in like the local media scene here in New York, was a senior when I was a freshman, he's doing play-by-play for a Fordham basketball game my freshman year. Bob and I are in the studio at WFUV, and there is no one in the update studio, right? And like at this point, I'm like 3 months in. I'm not on the air. I'm not really doing anything off the air. And he's telling me, like, how to produce games. We're doing a Fordham basketball game, right? And Andrew, and it's not his fault, and I love Bogish, and Bogish knows that. I talked to Bogish yesterday about this. Bogish throws to the studio for an update, for a 10:30:50 update on one-on-one sports. Throws to an update, there's no one in the studio. Bob just looks up to the ceiling, leans back in the reclining chair he's in the radio studio, and just starts screaming, no, no, no. And in my head, I'm thinking, am I supposed to run in there and start doing an update? And it turned into something that I still remember and laugh about to this day. And I don't say that to poke fun at him. He was hysterical. And he made all of us laugh, and he made all of us better. All of us. And if he didn't make you better, and you were there, it was your fault, not his. And you didn't want it bad enough. Tributes to this man are gonna be coming out in full force. I wanted to make sure I did mine. I loved him. And I last saw him last year when I went to the facility that he passed away at. And, there's a deeper conversation to be had here about what all of us as humans need to do in situations like this when you never know how long people have. And it's very cliche to say it. I wish I had seen him more and spoken to him more. You can't take it back now. I did what I could. Was it enough? I think I probably could have done more. So, you got someone in your life that you need to call? I would suggest calling him or her. You never know. You never know. And when it's done, it's done. And we could have the conversation about what happens next. I'm not qualified to answer that. So many different emotions running through my body today. The one that I want to share most with everybody on this situation is gratitude. Gratitude for this man, what he did for so many young people at Fordham, and what he did for me. Rest in peace to my friend Bob Aarons. Passed away this morning at the age of 89. Take a break. On the other side, all our bets for tonight in the world of sports, right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive a WNBA Odds Boost token. To use the token, add a WNBA wager to the bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Thank you to the audience for indulging me, talking about the passing of my mentor, Bob Aarons, gone at the age of 89. You will hear and read, I think, a lot about Bob in the coming days from members of the sports media. Thanks to our guests today, Colin Wilson, Danny Parkins, and Anthony DeBundo. Thanks to Tyler and the crew. I am off the next week and a half after today, and I'll be back at the end of August. And then you basically got me straight through until after the NCAA tournament. So very much looking forward to that. Let's wrap the show with our bets for tonight. Please, Roy, drop the dope-ass beat. And just quick betting thoughts on the NFL games we didn't get to for week 1. Colts plus 3.5 at home against the Ravens. I like the Giants, but I need 3 against the Dallas Cowboys in week 1. And the cheapest Chiefs money line price I can find prior to Monday Night Football week 1 against the Denver Broncos. So I bet the Seattle Mariners last night. They lost 22-0. Not the best bet I've ever placed. But still a winning night, 2-2 with some positive juice our way. So let's look to keep the good times rolling here on this Wednesday. I'm not going to bet this game. It actually starts in about an hour. I do think it's interesting. Remember Paul Skeens' last start was skipped by the Pirates because of some arm fatigue. So they held him out. He's back pitching today, and the Pirates are minus 160 against the Tigers. Not going to bet that game, but I am going to be watching to see how Skeens performs. If I had to bet it, I think I'd actually take the plus money with Detroit and bet against Skeens. So 2 bets that I do like. I'm going to keep riding the San Diego Padres against the Mets. And how about Fernando Tatis Jr.? Fernando Tatis getting the job done, robbing a Francisco Lindor grand slam yesterday, hitting a couple homers. Give me the Padres, minus 140 against the Mets. And I bet Toronto yesterday against the Tampa Bay Rays, and Toronto won the game 10-5. The Jays, don't be shocked if Toronto is in the AL playoffs when it's all said and done as the third wild card team. They are a big dog tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays with Max Scherzer on the bump against Drew Rasmussen. First pitch, 640. I'll take Toronto plus 170 for the Blue Jays to keep hitting, stay hot. Give me the Blue Jays plus 170. So San Diego laying about $1.40, and the Jays about plus 170 on the road at the Tampa Bay Rays. So everyone out there, be safe. Enjoy week 2 of the NFL preseason. I'll obviously be watching everything. I'll still be posting on social media at the Kostos, but I will talk to you next on this show in a week and a half. Until then, I am Nick Kostos wishing you and yours minimal sweats, winning bets, and the absolute very best of luck. Our very good friends, some would say our best friends, Chris Black, Adam Abdallah, and the great Raj are coming up next here on Westwood One Sports.